At the quiet threshold of this morning, when the first soft rays press gently against the world, and all creation seems to hold its breath in silent invocation, I come before you, Lord, longing to awaken not merely into the waking day, but into the sanctuary of your nearness, the sure shelter found beneath the shadow of your wings. I confess my need for your covering, for even as dawn stirs the world to newness, my soul seeks a place of abiding, a stronghold that will not yield where the noise and storm of the day ahead cannot batter my spirit nor erode my peace. Lord, I know that you are the dwelling in whom I find true rest, the strong tower rising steadfast above every valley of uncertainty. And so I draw near to your presence with a heart laid bare, trusting that you will be my refuge before the rush of burdens and the quiet threats that move unseen in the morning mist. If you are weary this morning, burdened beneath the weight of cares that threaten to overwhelm, let this be the moment you rest your spirit in the shadow of the Almighty, where no weapon fashioned in the night may find purchase against you, and every anxious fear is answered by the calming of still waters. You are the oil poured over my head, fresh anointing for the journey that beckons, the fire that warms yet does not consume, the light by which I discern the path to walk when the way feels hidden by shadow. Even when the arrows of accusation or the eruptions of sudden storm seek to break through the fragile borders of my heart, I will trust in your promise that nothing forged to harm your beloved may prosper, for you are the guardian at the gate, the watcher through the watches of the night, the hand that steadies and the voice that summons peace. While the world rouses itself in anxious striving, and the wilderness of unknowns presses close, Lord, I choose to dwell beneath your covering set apart and held fast within the holy sanctuary of your faithfulness. Let every breath this morning become an act of return, drawing nearer to the rock that cannot be shaken, surrendering anxiety for the assurance found in your steadfast presence. I know that there is no darkness that your light shall not dispel, no enemy at the edge that your power will not drive away. Even when my spirit trembles at the threshold of the day, I receive the stillness you grant in the shadow of your wings, where every weapon loses its threat and peace. Your peace abides as morning dew upon the ground. Lord, I recall the ancient word that breathes across the centuries, echoing not merely as ink upon parchment, but as a living proclamation heard in the chambers of trembling hearts, and in the quiet resolve of those who gather beneath your banner each morning. As I lift my soul to you at this breaking of the day, I remember that your voice, strong and everlasting, declares that every scheme woven in darkness loses its potency when measured against the fire of your abiding faithfulness. Though the adversary forges weapons in secret working, by night as the wilderness broods in silence, I know it is your sovereignty that shapes the dawn, your presence that fills the unseen, places your promise that endures when all lesser assurances have faded. Even when fear speaks with many tongues, and the valley is thick with shadows that would seek to confuse and divide, I reach for the word you have spoken over your beloved. A shield that cannot be breached, an oath that will never be revoked. We come before you, Lord, confessing that in our own frailty, we sometimes heed the sound of weapons being shaped in far-off realms, the muffled threats of plague or calamity that gather at the edge of our thoughts. Yet you are the unbreakable fortress, the immovable rock that stands when all else is shaken, the strong tower that beckons every weary soul to higher ground. Let us find refuge in the memory of your unchanging nature, in the ancient proclamation that nothing fashioned with intent to destroy shall prosper against those who abide in the shelter of your wings. I trust you to be the light that dispels the gloom, the flame that consumes every snare, the voice that calls us continually from fear to faith. Even when the weight of night lingers and yesterday's wounds press hard upon the heart, I declare with assurance that the power of your word remains greater than all that rises against me or those whom I name before you now. Lord, wherever this morning finds us, by still waters or beneath a storm-darkened sky, let us rest in the unyielding certainty that your authority is our covering, your faithfulness, our deliverance, your ancient voice, our song of victory. Lord, as the winds begin to stir and the heavens gather their heavy veil, I confess how easily my heart remembers the tempests that have battered my days, the swelling of tides that threaten to engulf the strongholds I have labored to build in my own strength. Yet in the midst of gathering storm, I come before you seeking not a refuge of my own making, but the eternal walls of your presence, knowing that you alone are the fortress who cannot be made to yield, the dwelling where every anxious thought may find its rest and every trembling soul its shelter. Lord, even when the rain falls hard and the night brings with it the tremor of uncertainty, I know you are the rock beneath my feet, the steadfast foundation hidden beneath the tumult, the unshakable tower skyward, whose gates will not be broken by the rush of adversaries or the fury of unseen foes. Let my prayer rise as incense from the heart of the battle, a cry for covering so sure that no weapon, no word, no unexpected storm shall breach the gates of this sanctuary you establish around your beloved. If you wake this day with the memory of wounds still raw or with fears that whisper beneath the thunder, let these be yielded now to the God whose arms encircle like an everlasting bastion, who commands the wind to be still and speaks light into shadow. Lord, I trust the truth that your goodness is a wall of fire around us, a circle of light that repels the advance of every plague and silences the taunt of every darkness that prowls at the periphery. Though storms gather and the battle roars, we stand beneath your covering, hidden not in escapism, but in the deep reality of your faithfulness that holds fast, unwavering, when every earthly refuge is swept away. I declare even now, Lord, that you are my fortress, my hiding place, my enduring hope when all around me falters. In your shadow, the storm's wrath loses its edges, the arrows lose their poison, and peace, solemn, unyielding peace, settles as a mantle over your people, enduring even when thunder still echoes. Lord, I come before you with my longing unveiled, not seeking a salvation born of my own efforts, but yearning to be carried by your wings. Those wings spread wide above the fray, broad enough to shield both the singular and the multitude, powerful enough to draw your people from every danger into the blessed calm of your presence. I know that beneath your sheltering shadow the arrows of sorrow turn and fall powerless to the earth, and every intent purposed against me is caught and silenced by the feathers of the Almighty, whose nearness forms a refuge more enduring than walls of stone or armaments of men. Let me rest here, Lord, where salvation is not an idea, but a dwelling, a place where deliverance touches flesh and spirit, where every wound is anointed with oil poured by your own hand, the oil that glistens upon the heads of your beloved, signifying favor, setting us apart as those made holy by your choosing. We trust you, Lord, to be the covering that repels every spoken curse, the balm upon every hidden bruise, the power that breaks chains forged in secrecy and spills light into the long wilderness of the soul. Even when the journey draws me through valley and shadow, I trust that your presence is the strong tower into which I am invited again and again, for you are the one who both finds the lost and keeps the found. Every day begins anew as I consent to your protective embrace, opening hands that once clung to fear and lifting them as a sign of surrender to the one whose oil does not run dry, whose mercy is renewed as the morning dew. Let your anointing fall again today, marking each servant, each weary pilgrim, each trembling heart, until your name becomes the banner raised over every battle, and your peace, like still waters, calms every raging within. Even now, I choose trust over striving, abiding over anxiety, certainty in your salvation over the shadow of attack. Lord, let me dwell beneath your wings and bear the fragrance of your oil rising from this prayer, clothed in the impenetrable covering of your grace. Lord, this morning, I come before you with the knowledge that there are battles waged beyond the reach of mortal eyes, currents swirling in the unseen places where light contends with darkness, and every soul is summoned to stand or surrender at the hidden thresholds of the heart. I acknowledge, Lord, that the true warfare is not always found in the clamor of circumstance or the rise and fall of visible opposition, but often in the intangible press of heaviness, in the arrows that fly in silence in the shadowed corners where fear and accusation whisper against faith. I know that you are the strong tower at the edge of this battlefield, the flaming presence that circles round your beloved, the fortress whose walls are faithfulness itself, and whose gates open only to those who seek you in spirit and in truth. Even when weariness inches across my bones and the adversary arrays forces unseen, I remember that every shadow flees before the dawn, and every snare set in secret is exposed in the radiance of your presence. We trust you, Lord, to be the fire that consumes what would ensnare, to be the river that sweeps away the residue of defeat, to be the oil that anoints weary shoulders for the fight that is not of flesh and blood. Let us learn to discern the movements beneath the surface, granting us wisdom to recognize when the heaviness we feel is more than sorrow, but the trembling of the earth in spiritual contest. And yet I find rest in the deeper assurance that none of these weapons, whether forged of fear or cloaked in darkness, may prosper against the one whose spirit dwells in the sanctuary of your light. Lord, I ask that you strengthen the hands that hang limp this day and steady the hearts that falter at the sight of the valley's shadow, for your deliverance is not delayed, and your presence is our refuge, always nearer than the breath we draw. Even now, let your peace attend us like the hush that falls after a storm, settling over spirit, soul, and body as a banner of victory written in grace. I surrender all striving to the reality that your nearness is the truest defense, and when I abide in your presence, however fierce the war, however well-armed the night, I am more than safe. I am sheltered, enfolded, and emboldened by your steadfast love. Lord, as I walk through the stretches of this wilderness that sometimes wear the shape of endless waiting or the ache of barren seasons, I bring to remembrance that you are the fountain who calls forth rivers in dry land, and the deliverer whose word brings life where despair dares to dwell. I know that not one of your beloved stands powerless amid the wilderness, for to each child you grant the authority to declare deliverance, to call upon the living water that breaks forth from hidden places, to speak your promise over arid ground, and watch the covenant stream begin to flow. Even when the valley is deep and the shadows draw long across my path, you invite me, Lord, to speak not of the emptiness, but of the hope that rushes in as a river, carving new ways through rock and impossibility, testifying that no weapon forming against your beloved shall triumph over the voice of one redeemed. We trust you, Lord, for you are the unceasing wellspring, the presence that transforms wilderness into dwelling, the radiance that lights the furthest desert place with the assurance of forward movement and unquenched grace. Let me stand in the authority purchased by your faithfulness, not trembling at the evidence of lack or the strength of the opposition, but proclaiming with heart and voice deliverance for my home, peace over my thoughts, and the ending of every siege mounted by fear. Lord, as the sun rises upon unfamiliar territory, I choose to speak as your beloved, parting the veil of night with the declaration that your river flows here, present, powerful, and enough for every need. Even when the wilderness appears unyielding, I know that your name carries the weight to shift mountains, to renew the wasted places, to anoint the pathways that lead beyond barrenness into plenty. Let the river of your salvation rise and break the drought that yet remains. Let the song of deliverance echo between the stones, and let peace run deep, restoring what the wasteland could not keep. Lord, I anchor my soul in this current of your faithfulness, declaring that every obstacle in the wilderness yields to the river of your redemption, and every heart that calls upon your name shall be satisfied as with living water. Lord, it is within the hush of the valley, where shadows linger deep and long, that I come quietly before you, sensing the chill of uncertainty against my heart, as I walk between the looming walls of trouble and memory. I acknowledge the trembling, the rising of fear, as a mist that clings to every uncertain step, weaving doubts into the fabric of my waking, and sending questions through the hollows where once only faith resided. Lord, I know that you are neither distant nor silent, but the watchful presence beside me, the breath that quiets anxious, storms, the sunlight poised behind every darkened ridge. Let me remember, Lord, that even when fear sharpens its voice and seeks to fashion new weapons of discouragement, you are the fire at the heart of the mountain, the guiding hand upon my shoulder, the whisper that tells me I am not alone in this shadowed path. We trust you, Lord, to transform the valley from prison to sanctuary, to teach our trembling souls how fear may become not a warning of doom, but an invitation to deeper trust, and a call to step out upon the waters where light dances just beyond the reach of our worry. Even when the journey seems relentless and the heaviness presses close, let us rise with confidence that each valley has its own brightness, an unveiling of your faithfulness in places where we least expect, training our eyes upon the dawn that has been promised and the hope that comes with every new morning. Lord, I surrender the inclination to flee from the valley or to despair of its length, asking instead that you would give me vision to see your nearness as light breaking through crevice and cloud alike, as warmth returning to the chilled earth of my spirit. Let my fear become the altar on which I offer trust, my weakness the window through which your strength is poured quietly, steadily, until even the deepest valley opens to the breaking day, and every shadow yields to brightness. Even now, as this hour finds me between past sorrow and future unknown, I declare that you are my shepherd in the valley, my deliverer, beyond the shadow, the radiance that waits to receive me in the rising of the sun. Lord, I come before you as one anchored to the lineage of those who proclaimed your faithfulness again and again, who turned ordinary breath into litany, layering word upon word, until life itself became a tapestry of victory. There is power when the tongue returns morning after morning to the refrain that has never been broken by the march of time. I am kept, I am covered, I am delivered. I know that the essence of spiritual warfare is not the noise of outward conflict, but the persistent return to truth. Even when shadows crowd the horizon, even when silence seems to press the borders tight, even when the mind rehearses old defeats, or the world assembles new threats at the break of day. Let my prayer become the echo of faith's refrain, each repetition a stone set along the path to your strong tower, each proclamation a shield that thwarts every weapon forged in the hidden darkness. Even as doubts attempt to muster, even when fears barter for my attention, I know your truth stands unmoved. You are my refuge. You are the presence that steadies. You are the fire that burns through the fog of confusion and silences the voices arrayed against the soul. We trust you, Lord, and we say again, no weapon formed not in the wilderness, not beneath the shadow, not in the secret places of accusation, shall prosper over those resting in your dwelling. Let the words rise again and again, until they carve their own riverbeds through every wilderness within, until what once seemed dry and unyielding becomes a place of abundance by the sheer persistence of your promise. Even when the darkness lingers, I will proclaim. Even when strength falters, I will proclaim. Even when the outcome seems hidden, I will proclaim. You are my deliverer. You are my stronghold. You are the anchor in the storm. Let every breath be a hymn, every sentence an act of warfare, every declaration a stone in the fortress you construct about your beloved. Lord, I know that each word spoken in faith is received, gathered, and multiplied in your presence, until victory is woven like a garment upon my life. Even now, I surrender to the rhythm of your faithfulness, unbroken, unrelenting, unending, as the river that pours from your sanctuary, washing over valley and hill, leaving only the quiet settling of peace. Lord, in the hush of this early light, with a heart unshielded and hands open wide, I come before you seeking not only to begin, but to sanctify this day in the richness of your presence, trusting that you are nearer than the air I breathe, more steadfast than the ground beneath my feet. I bring every concern, every lingering sorrow, every hope awakened by the dawn, and lay them upon the altar of your faithfulness, asking that your peace, unbroken as the quiet stillness of morning waters, would settle over my soul and guide my steps along the path you have prepared. You are my refuge when the shadows threaten at the edges, my strong tower, when the tumult gathers my portion, and my song as I walk into the uncertainty that each new hour may bring. Lord, I know that whatever rises to meet me, your presence precedes and surrounds, and your word remains the sure shield that turns aside every weapon, both seen and unseen, woven in the night. We trust you, Lord, to deliver us from the snares we cannot name and the trials we cannot foresee, to cover our families, our work, our very breath with the fragrance of your anointing and the strength of your covenant mercy. Let this morning prayer rise as incense, a continual offering of surrender and devotion, bearing every weakness, every longing, every joy up to your throne, where answers are given and hearts are made whole. I ask that you would send forth your light into our valleys and your oil of gladness into our wearied places, so that each step we take is made firm on the rock of your salvation, and every moment is overshadowed by your blessing. Even if storms are gathering on the horizon and the wilderness stretches before us, let your blessing fall as gentle rain, quickening what once was barren, renewing what had nearly withered, and drawing us ever homeward toward your presence. Lord, as this day begins and my prayer ascends, I surrender both fear and striving, letting go of what burdens and receiving instead the assurance of still waters, the welcome of your dwelling, and the peace that will not fail. Let this be your prayer today, and may the blessing of the Lord rest upon you through every hour that unfolds.